So Kira's cousins, Anna and Charlotte, had a really cool question.
Can dogs get coronavirus? Oh, Pippi the black dog.
That's a great question. Let's see. So in the news, we've seen some reports of dogs getting coronavirus. So a couple animals in Asia tested positive for coronavirus. But even though they could detect the virus on dogs, it doesn't mean that they are infected or can spread it. So experts like veterinarians say that your pet won't give you coronavirus, so go ahead and hug your dog or cat.
Yeah, kiss it, whatever.
So other types of similar coronaviruses prefer infecting animals. So there were a couple other types of viruses you may have heard of before called SARS or MERS. And these like to infect animals like the civet cat, which is a mammal that lives in Southeast Asia. Does it look like a cat?
Nuh-uh, it looks like an otter.
Or like a ferret or something.
Yeah.
And then MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, infected camels. And sometimes these animals could spread the virus to people. So if we want to understand how animals can infect people, we have to first talk about how we breathe. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in order to fuel your body, which includes your muscles and your brain, they need to get oxygen, and you need to breathe air into your lungs to get the oxygen to the places in the lungs where things get recharged, and this is called the alveoli. So take a deep breath in. Breathe in oxygen, now breathe out. We just exhaled carbon dioxide. So what happens is that blood cells are recharged in these alveoli. So when you breathe in, this little air pocket gets close to the blood cells, and they can exchange used carbon dioxide for fresh oxygen.
What about doggy? He's so cute. Yeah. Oh, he's so cute.
So to get back to the question about dogs, some types of coronaviruses usually infect animals and can also cause sickness in people, but that's pretty rare because the way that the infection goes tends to be preferential for a certain type of animal, whether it's a human or a different kind of animal. So Keira, do you remember we were talking about the spike protein?
Yeah.
That's the part of the virus that grabs onto lung cells, right?
What?
So coronavirus can affect other animals, but how does it do that?
Coronavirus spike.
Yep. So we know that the spike protein binds to a certain receptor on human cells. And this is called ACE2.
Same, but different.
Yeah, dogs may have a different flavor of ACE2, the receptor, so that when the spike protein tries to grab onto ACE2, it can't bind as strongly as when a human cell is there. So ACE2 is like the doorknob.
The spike protein grabs ACE2, the doorknob, and can open a pocket into the lung cell.
Yeah, so now the virus gets inside the lung cell and can do its favorite thing.
Make more of itself. Like, I would love to make more of myself.
So this is a cute cartoon that kind of shows how the virus gets in by the spike protein.
Yeah, that
binding.
guy evil. That guy evil with his spiky teeth, and then the green guy, the lung cell. He all smiley and stuff. He's like, "Oh, you don't seem evil." And then that guy, he's like, and the green guy dumb.
So once the virus, the spike protein grabs onto the doorknob, the ACE2, it can get into the cell and then make more of itself. Dun dun dun!
So did coronavirus come from an animal?
Well, the current coronavirus that we're all worried about probably came from an animal. Scientists think that it might have come from an animal called a pangolin.
Cool.
Or bats. Do you know what a pangolin is, Keira?
It's like a mammal that has like scales on it.
Yeah, it's the only mammal that has scales. It's pretty cool. It's also known as the scaled anteater. They're a super cool animal, but even though they can be infected by coronaviruses, the virus is only 90% similar to the one that's currently infecting people. But when you look at the virus that's circulating in bats, there's one that's 96% similar. So it's probably more likely that it came from bats.
Yeah. I miss going to school and seeing my friends.
I'm sure they miss you too, and I'm sure you miss your teacher and she misses you. But
I'm nippy.
Soon enough, we'll all be back at school.
I feel a little better now with this info.
Good. If you're feeling worried, just ask a parent or guardian for more information or post on Google Classroom and we'll talk about it soon.